when it comes to weight loss, is it healthy to go on a strict diet or allow room for fuck-ups?
This is a good question, and it's pretty dependent on the person because some people are morbidly obese and they need to go on a very strict diet so that they don't die. Most of us aren't. If you're listening to this podcast, odds are you're not lying in a hospital bed being morbidly obese. So I think I coined the term flexibility for sustainability. I'm a huge fan of the 80-20 rule when it comes to almost everything in life. 80% of the time, you're dialed in, right? You're paying attention. 20% of the time, you leave room for things like date nights, birthday cake for your kid's birthday, maybe a drink or a burger with the guys eventually, right? As long as that's not too frequently, maybe once every other week or so, if you're in a dieting phase, that is, right? You're going to be just fine. The key there is to not go overboard and go backwards in progress, right? So 80-20 rule is kind of my general basic guidelines. Fact of the matter is, if you're asking a question like that and you're struggling with food, being 80% consistent is probably going to be a lot better than you're doing currently.
Let me ask you a question about 80-20 real quick, because a lot of people, they use that the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
They're, oh, well, 80% of my day I'll eat like this, and then at night I'm going to fuck around. So like you said, maybe once a week, maybe one meal once a week for that cheat meal. But even then, make sure that you earn it, right?
Yeah.
Make sure that you're putting in the work. And then at the end of the week, be okay, I deserve this. I'm able to do this because I busted ass this week. Mm-hmm. I was strict. I was disciplined. I got after it in the gym. So now I can have this cheat meal.
Right.
But it's earning that. It's earning those carbs, as people like to say.
Sure.
But it's not bullshitting yourself and saying, okay, I can do this every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So would you say that's good for most people, like that one cheat meal per week?
I would break that down a little further because it's going to be better than what most people are doing currently, right? So they'll see progress. Eventually, they might stall with that progress, and that's when you might want to think about tightening it up a little bit more to where you maybe like you're 90% consistent. If you do the math, depending on how many meals you eat in a day, times a week, times a month, that might turn 10% of a month might turn out to be just maybe 2 quote unquote cheat meals a month, right?
Right.
So it really kind of depends on the person. But yeah, 80% consistency with one meal that's kind of off. So you get the mental diet break, which is important. You kind of reset that to where you're just like, God, I'm sick of this. I'm tired of thinking about this stuff. Go have that meal with your family, right?
Get that dopamine release.
The dopamine, yeah. And other thing that people don't speak about a lot in nutrition is that social health is extremely important, right? When we look at blue zones, the people that live the longest and tend to have the least amount of disease, and they're active, they have a good quality of life into a very old age. Well, they used to look at the fact that they had just a healthy diet, which is true. And then they noticed they had a more active lifestyle. And then they noticed that they had like a spiritual practice. But then finally, they noticed that they had social health, a very strong community around them. If you think about it, how did our brains develop? Right? We figured out fire. We started cooking food. And then we started talking to each other around food, right?
Around the fire, around the food, all that good stuff.
That is deeply embedded in our DNA to socialize around food. And if you have to go on this overly restrictive diet to where that is completely removed, you may not realize it, but that's pretty important to your life and your well-being. So yeah, I think 80% of the time is good to start with. But like you mentioned, during the day, if you're like, hey, I was 80% good during the day, maybe not 20% at night. You could technically break that down into like food quality. I've done that for some people who really just cannot give up certain foods to where it's like, all right, 80% of your day are these healthier options. And then at night, we can kind of make some of these quote unquote unhealthy foods. I personally don't put food into healthier or unhealthy categories. But we could take some of these quote unquote unhealthy foods and make them fit your macros for the day. Right? If it's only 20%. So it really depends on how you chop it up.
But try to avoid that. Like try to eat how you know you need to eat. Mm-hmm. Don't bullshit yourself on this.
Right.
I think that's the most important thing here, because our brain wants us to seek out this pleasure, these comfort foods, and we will do whatever it takes to convince ourselves that that's okay. So that's where self-awareness comes in, is do I actually need this? Did I earn this? Or am I just, honestly, it's going to sound harsh, but am I just being weak and I don't want to be disciplined enough to do this? And that's where I think having motivators in place, goals that you want to hit that are going to improve your quality of life, reminding yourself of that, visualizing yourself being that person that you want to be. Maybe it's 30 pounds less, 50 pounds less, 100 pounds, whatever it is, visualizing that, writing that goal down every day, stuff like that. That's what keeps you on track, because you're always reminding yourself, this is where I want to go. And if I stick to this plan, I will get there. And I'm not going to bullshit myself and say, okay, well, I'm going to eat like this because I worked a little bit harder today.
Right.
Or because I don't technically like this food because I prefer pizza.
Right.
It's not bullshitting yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. And I tend to be a little more kids gloves with people in the beginning, because you don't know who, well, I'm talking about clients, right? You don't really know the person's history with food, how they're going to accept kind of harder love in a sense. But after a certain point, we've gone through all the variables and the things that they could be doing to improve their diet. Then that's where the hard conversation comes in. It's like, look, man, just fucking suck it up. Like I've been trying to help you here, and you're not taking it too seriously. So like, you either do it or you don't.
I guess it probably depends on the individual. Some people respond really well to harsh love, and other people, they take it a little bit too personal and it might derail them.
Right.
So it's just kind of getting to know that individual and be like, okay, which that's something, even if you're not a trainer or a nutrition coach or anything like that, like you can apply that to your loved ones. A lot of us have parents that have really shitty eating habits.
Right.
So it's kind of approaching that with them, knowing what's going to work with them as far as communication goes, to keep them on track and not make them just want to give up.
Right.
But it's knowing the individual and getting to that point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. So 80-20, don't bullshit yourself.
Yeah.
Put in the work, earn your carbs, earn that cheat meal, and try to stay on track as much as possible. That way you can become this ideal version of yourself.
Yeah. Can we talk about cheat meal?
Yeah, let's talk about cheat meals.
So the term cheat meal, that's another thing. Like I said, I don't put categories healthy, unhealthy necessarily. I don't usually use the term cheat meal. And it kind of sets up this poor relationship with food for some people.
Okay.
Not a lot of people, not everybody. But some people hear that and they go, fuck it, right? I've been good all week. And then it's like whole pizza, beers, get drunk, and then make poorer food choices after drinking.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like if you had a poor relationship with a partner, someone's likely to cheat on that person eventually, right? So I usually call it like a refeed, or maybe just a planned deviation. So I'm kind of careful with my words around that.
Words are important.
Yeah. So just simply because some people hear that cheat meal and then it's just like a fuck it mentality.
Yeah.
Right? And that happens more often than not.
I like the refeed idea, because if you're following a strict meal plan, you're hitting your macros, you're hitting a certain amount of calories and stuff like that. Even when it comes to cheat meals for myself, they're usually refeeds, and I'm still sticking to like a healthy-ish food. Like I couldn't tell you the last time I ate pizza, but back in the day, I did exactly what you did. Fuck it. I'm going to drink some beers. I'm going to eat a pizza, whatever it is. Now it's like, okay, well, maybe I'll get a burger and I'll load up on some sweet potato fries or something like that. Like both those are still fairly healthy food groups, but they're not going to completely derail me, but it's also going to give me that refeed. That way, say if I'm eating that on Sunday, when I go into my workout on Monday, I'm going to be feeling great. And I'm going to be able to use that extra fuel to have a really great workout and set my week up for success.
Exactly. And especially if you're on a cut and you're training hard, and depending on how you do it, protein's adequate. A lot of people that perform glycolytic activity like weightlifting tend to bring their fats down, kind of like we talked about earlier today, and keep their carbs moderate. So I like my cheat meal to be kind of, I call it a fat spike, where I'll intentionally load up on fat for one meal so that I get the kind of brain health going a little bit, because it starts to decline over the course of time when your fats are low, and even like thyroid and testosterone hormone function. Or, if you're just feeling depleted, you've trained super hard, you could just do like a one higher fat, one higher carb meal.
Okay.
Right. It doesn't always have to be junk food.
Yeah. If anything, try to avoid the junk food.
Yeah.
Like try to still keep it fairly healthy. Enjoy yourself. Refeed. I love that. I've heard that term before, but it's almost like I forgot about it because cheat meal is just so thrown around all the time. But yeah, look at it as a refeed. You're refueling your body in order to continue moving forward.
Right.
Awesome.
I'll honestly have a donut or something sometimes too.
Yeah.
Just like, look, I'm healthy. I'm fine. It's not going to derail me. And I get right back on track immediately with my next meal. Not the next day, just the next meal.
I think that's what's important too, is getting back on track. having that one meal, not a cheat day,
Right. No.
just a refeed meal in order to get back on track,
Yeah.
refeed your body, and keep moving forward.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.